Rocket Lab, the only publicly traded competitor to SpaceX. You can buy 2 years ago. It traded at $10. Today, over $120. Growth of more than 1,200% in just 18 months. But is it really an investment or a bubble? This is Rocket Lab, probably the only publicly traded company in the world that is realistically trying to compete with SpaceX in orbital launches. And over the past year, it has given investors one of the wildest rides on the market. Let's start with what Rocket Lab actually does. The company has two main business segments: launch services, sending rockets into space, and space systems, building satellites, engines, solar panels, and other space infrastructure. The company's flagship is the Electron rocket, a small rocket for launching small satellites into low Earth orbit, one of the few rockets in the world with an almost perfect success rate. In 2025, the company launched 21 Electron missions, 100% success, a record. And that's not all. In November 2025, Rocket Lab built and sent 2 probes to Mars, NASA's Escapade mission. The probes are successfully flying to Mars, where they will arrive in 2027. For a company of this size, it's a massive achievement. NASA is also very careful about choosing its partners, and for Rocket Lab, this is a huge reputational advantage. But the real story is somewhere else. It's called Neutron, a bigger rocket, capable of delivering 13,000 kilograms to orbit and competing directly with SpaceX's Falcon 9, estimated price per launch around $50 to $55 million. The first flight is planned for the end of 2026, and this is where a large part of the entire stock's value lies. Because if Neutron succeeds, Rocket Lab could move into a completely different league. Now the numbers. The first quarter of 2026 brought record revenue, $200 million, growth of 63% year over year. Backlog, meaning signed contracts, reached a record $2.2 billion, gross margin of 38%. And in the first quarter alone, the company signed more contracts than in all of 2025, including military ones. Rocket Lab won a contract in the Golden Dome program, America's missile defense shield, in partnership with Raytheon. And it's also expanding into Europe, after acquiring the German company Mynaric. What do analysts say? The consensus: moderate buy. Needham and Clear Street recently raised their price targets. Needham to $120, Clear Street even to $150. But here comes the first warning signal. The average price target from all analysts is around $92. The current stock price is approximately $123. That means most analysts currently see less upside from here, and that's quite unusual. The second warning signal is even stronger. Insider selling. Over the past 6 months, insiders at the company made 120 transactions. All 120 were sales, 0 purchases. CEO Peter Beck alone sold over 2.5 million shares for $143 million. And just last week, another company director sold shares worth $11.8 million. To be fair, insider selling on its own doesn't automatically mean trouble. For fast-growing companies, it's relatively common, but the scale of these sales is striking, and investors shouldn't ignore it. The third warning signal: valuation. The stock trades at roughly 48 to 60 times expected annual revenue. For comparison, most technology companies trade at about 8 to 12 times. P/E is still negative. The company remains unprofitable. To justify the current price, Rocket Lab would need to keep growing at very high rates for many years. The fourth factor: SpaceX. This is a big topic. There's increasing speculation in the market about a possible future SpaceX IPO. Nothing is confirmed yet, but if SpaceX did one day go public, Rocket Lab would suddenly have a much bigger public competitor right next to it. And some investors could shift capital from Rocket Lab into SpaceX. That could create significant pressure on Rocket Lab. The fifth factor, Neutron itself. The first flight has already been postponed multiple times, from 2024 to 2025, and now to the end of 2026. A recent qualification test revealed a ruptured first-stage tank. It didn't cause structural damage, but it showed that the program still faces technical issues. And this is where the biggest risk for the entire company lies. If the first flight is delayed further, or even fails, the stock could react very harshly. There's also a sixth factor, the lawsuit. In February 2025, the research firm Bleecker Street Research published a report accusing Rocket Lab of deliberately misleading investors about the Neutron rocket. After the report was published, the stock dropped 10%. A group of investors subsequently filed a class action lawsuit. The case is still ongoing. And there's competition too, and it's not just coming from SpaceX. Firefly Aerospace plans to launch its Eclipse rocket at the end of 2026. Blue Origin is working on New Glenn, and other startups are emerging in China and Europe. The market isn't empty for Rocket Lab. So, what do I think about Rocket Lab? The story is fascinating, and if the space sector grows over the coming decades the way many investors expect, Rocket Lab could be one of the big winners. It really is one of the few public companies with a chance to profit long-term from the growth of the space economy. And if Neutron succeeds, it could turn into a decade-long growth story. But at the current price, I personally wouldn't buy. In my view, the stock is already well ahead. A lot of the good news might already be priced in. Analysts are more cautious, insiders are selling heavily, and execution risk remains huge. If Neutron succeeds, the stock could go even higher. If it fails, the drop could be brutal. For me, this is more of a speculation than a classic long-term investment, and speculation isn't something I personally do. But I understand that someone could see it completely differently. If you believe in long-term expansion of the space sector and you're willing to accept high volatility, Rocket Lab is today one of the most interesting public options. So, the real question isn't whether Rocket Lab can succeed. The real question is whether the current price makes sense to you. For me, no. For you, maybe yes. And that's perfectly fine in investing. If this helped you, subscribe. And write in the comments, Rocket Lab, buy or not.